Alright guys, what's up? It's your boy here, Czardd. We're back with part 2 of the deck building thought process. So today, I'm going to probably do EDH first. Most popular format, really fun format. So, when I build a deck for EDH, they're probably some of the easier decks to build. I think I've said this in the last part. But I'd recommend buying a pre-con first, and it's not for the cards, or you can do it for the commander in the deck. Recommend that. Don't do what I did. I've pretty much built this whole thing from scratch by adding some cards from lists or stuff like that. When I build a deck, we all know I go look at what other people are running or what other deck lists are out there, and I say, ooh, I like this, I'm gonna put this in there, we're gonna try it out. Playtesting is key too. So basically, I'm going to show you guys a list, and we're going to go over what my thought processes were when I build this deck. So we got Atla here. We're just using Atla as an example. She is a tap for Naya and 1 extra to make an commander, human shaman. Whenever an egg you control dies, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the battlefield and on the bottom of your library in any order, random order. So you just shuffle them up, put them there, whatever. So Atla this is what I liked about her, because she wants her eggs to die. Well, y'all know I like Czardd, y'all know I like those type of decks, I like the sacrifice mechanic a lot. And I was like, this is perfect for me. This is going to be like, I could really rock this. Even though it's got that white symbol, that white mana. I don't know much about white, but I'm going to step outside my comfort zone here. And it just seems pretty much you want to play big creatures that do dumb stuff, right? Well, I found when I first started building this deck, you don't want to just play big creatures that do dumb stuff. You want them to have ETBs, like enter the battlefield effects. Right, and you still want to be able to cast them from your hand. So that's something I learned a little bit down the line. You still want to be able to play them. You don't want to make them impossible to play from your hand, but you want to try to get that efficiency going with the Sack Outlet and Atla. So one thing I decided when I was building this deck, I was like, okay, this is probably gonna be more than our modern deck. Our modern deck doesn't have any fetches, nothing like that. So we basically said, alright, go down the list here and look at some other decks. What's the average land base for Atla? 35. 35 lands is the average land base in the deck. So, I was like, alright. Well, if that's the average land base, how do we fix that? Or how do we do that? We got the land base down. That's probably the hardest thing when I'm building decks is actually land base. Because it's a lot of math, and you guys know Czardd, like your boy Czardd is not very good at math. Sometimes you don't even read his cards. But pretty much, when you're building this deck, the main concern I had was protecting my creatures once they're out. When we were sitting there talking about that, you gotta protect them, because if they get wiped off the board, you're not gonna be able to. The game's gonna go on a lot longer, and you can't shuffle up and go again. And that's a big thing when the philosophy of the deck. So if you're playing against a slowing like a pre-con deck, because this is low, we know this is above Battle Cruiser. It sort of goes into that philosophy of it as well. When we know, I purposefully kind of sabotage myself a little bit, because I know, I got all these combo pieces in my hand, but everybody just put down a tap land turn 3. So it's sort of part of how I build my decks. I purposefully, it's optimized, but it limits itself a little bit without the tutors. So I can't tutor the artifacts. So I had maybe Worldly Tutor and maybe the Mono White Tutor, I forget what it's called, and it would push it up to maybe what they would consider mid almost. Just gotta get a little bit better creatures. But it's a thought process. You want to. I always recommend building off your commander. I think it just makes things 10 times simpler. You're sort of themed, and it's like, okay, this is what this deck wants to do. This is how I'm going to do it efficiently, etc., etc. Like this one I have coming up, guys. Then I'll show it to you. It's going to be a 5-color. We're depending on Eldrazi. We're debating on Eldrazi or what is the other one? 5-color Eldrazi or something crazy like that, right? We want to do a little bit. We're stepping way out of our comfort zone. But I was like, you know what? We're gonna try it. I like this guy. He's pretty cool from Dominaria. I'll go and give you guys the commander in an update video on the next deck. But this one's pretty much done. We're gonna go really big giant Eldrazi. I'm excited for that one, but this one's pretty much done. There's always some upgrades I could do to make it better, but I want to have another commander deck that not everybody sees all the time. Atla is probably how I've had most play tests with, and I usually, depending on the group I play, I can do fairly well, or I can just burn out before anything else happens. So this is where the consistency aspect of the thought process comes in. When you're want to build better decks, especially EDH, it's fairly simple to build EDH decks. Going into Modern, those other places, that's where you're going to have a lot more trouble. Because you have to debate where the meta is. You have to debate, if you want to win the tournament, play anti-meta. And test. Make sure you're testing against decks that are very meta standard. Especially in standard. That's something I'd really recommend. Test and then break it. And that's the best way to put it. You want to break whatever your deck's doing. If something's playing creature heavy, play board wipes, right? If something's playing heavy graveyard recursion, that's, you basically exile the graveyard. There's a lot of cards that do that. Make sure their board presence. You already know what your deck's gonna do. I already know what Atla wants to do. As soon as I play her, as soon as I open up this box here, I already know what she wants to do. Atla wants me to play her as soon as possible, have a pair of Greaves and tap her to make some eggs, or have changelings to bring those eggs out. I know in my first opening hand I need ramp for turn 3 or turn 2 ramp. Hopefully we can get a Rampant Growth there. Turn 2 ramp, at least 2 ramp spells of some sort, and maybe in 3 lands, which that puts us up to 5. And then maybe 2 removal spells. That would be the ideal hand, or a Soul Ring even. Ooh, Soul Ring. Like any of the sack. The ideal hand would be a sack outlet, pretty much. Maybe Maskwood, or Mirror Entity. Maskwood or Mirror Entity, 3 lands, so that's 6, and then one ramp spell would be good, believe it or not. So, or Greaves would be good too. There's just a lot of variables. So when you're building a deck, you got to remember this: can't plan for everything. Build around the commander you want to play. Make sure you know the color identity very well and how to play this certain type of commander. And those are just the biggest advice / thoughts I could give on it. EDH is a format that is really commander focused, and it's very community focused, and it's very, friendly. You still want to end the game, you still want to win, depending on the player you are, or you could just be like 5-color group hug, and everybody draws cards, and you don't draw into your win condition there, or there's no win con. So it's just a mishmash of different types of players. For me, I want to shuffle up and play again. I want to play multiple games, or just have one really good game where everybody's doing something, and then whoever wins. It's sort of along those lines. But my goal is to make sure my deck can do what it wants to do. And that's always the top priority. Alright guys, don't forget to hit that follow button again, or not follow, subscribe, like, comment, and hit that bell. Deuces guys. We'll probably have a part 3 about the modern and stuff. So, alright guys.